Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
You good?
Good? Okay. So thank you guys. I work at Unum in the HR department. I screen hundreds and thousands of entry-level resumes and applications every, over the course of the year. So definitely want to give you my perspective so you can be more prepared and be the candidate that stands out next time you go ahead and apply for jobs. I know Marilyn has already gone through a lot of some of the information that I have up here.
But they don't listen to me, so you got to tell them again.
That's what she said. So I'm going to just kind of review high level, and I'll tell you, what's really good and what looks really bad from a corporate standpoint. So if you want to hit the, oh, you did? Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys are already working on resumes. So really, one key thing is just making it visually appealing. We understand you probably don't have a ton of experience at this point in time, but you want to present yourself the best as possible. So making sure you cover all the basics. You've got the heading. Obviously, education's going to be right at the top because that's most relevant right now. Work experience, include pretty much everything. All of those skills that you get even from, entry-level customer service jobs, everything really can transfer into corporate positions. And then certainly leadership opportunities, any clubs, extracurriculars, add all of that stuff. And then the skills, you want to add some just basic, obviously computer skills are very important. Any other information you have to share is good there. If you want to go ahead to the next.
Shirley, we're adjusting the lights too.
Oh, okay.
All sorted out here. Okay.
All right, so what to do? Definitely, you want to make sure, first off, everything is accurate and that there are no grammatical errors and there are no spelling errors, typos, that kind of thing. After you've done your resume, make sure you have at least a couple other people look at it to give you feedback. Because inevitably there'll be something that you don't even notice somebody else will pick out. When you put in your work experience, you want to put in the tasks you completed. Make sure you put in action verbs. So if you assist customers, if you whatever you do in your position, you make sure you put that in an action tense and make sure it's the correct tense. If it's your current job, you're using the current tense. If it's a previous job, you're using the past tense. And then anything that you can quantify looks great. If there's anything you can put in numbers as far as I increased sales by this or whatever, that always looks good to make something concrete. You want to use just a few bullet points to describe your responsibilities per job. Make sure everything is accurate. Obviously, I don't know how many times I've had people with incorrect email addresses or people that have voicemails that aren't set up. As employers, we need to be able to reach you in order to schedule the interviews. Nothing more frustrating than calling somebody and they don't have the voicemail set up or voicemail's full. And then things like GPA, over 3.0 and over, put it on there. Under 3.0, just let us ask you later. We won't rule somebody out because it's under 3.0. We obviously know there's extenuating circumstances. People may be working full time, that kind of thing. But you certainly don't want to highlight a GPA that's not so hot. Let's see, and then as far as resumes, I know there's always controversy on how long a resume should be. At the entry level, it shouldn't be more than a page. I can't imagine anyone's got more than enough experience to fill more than one page. So keep it simple. Quite honestly, when I look at a resume and application, probably I'm making a decision, within 10 seconds. So you want to be able to catch the attention of the recruiter quickly. Be accurate and honest. We do check. We do all kinds of background checks. We check those references. We check the dates. Anything that's incorrect, we will come back and question you about. So definitely ensure that those are accurate. And then always put your job history chronologically, most recent employment at the top. I've seen many resumes come through backwards where they put their high school job up here and then so make sure it's reading, we're going to be reading top to bottom, so you want to make sure you have your work experience from most recent to oldest at the bottom.
Ready?
Yep. All right, what not to do? Oh, inappropriate email addresses, hot mama, whatever, I don't know. I've seen all kinds of inappropriate email addresses. If you have one of those, that's fine, but you probably want to just make up one. Just go to a website or Gmail and just create one using your name, maybe numbers, whatever you want to use. Just make sure it's professional.
Miss Shannon, are you biased against AOL? If you see an AOL email, you throw it in the garbage?
I think I kind of chuckle sometimes when I see an AOL email address. You don't see too many of them, but I won't hold it against you. And then, let's see, unnecessary personal information. I don't need to know your marital status, your ethnicity, your religion, how many kids you have. Please leave that off. We're not supposed to know any of that, and there's no reason you need to share that. That's usually a red flag. Like, why would somebody put that on there? Date of birth, that kind of stuff. Don't put any of that on there. No need to be fluffy with, I'm the greatest team player in the world. If you don't really have concrete evidence for what you're putting on your resume, you probably shouldn't have it on there. So I wouldn't include that kind of thing. Now that you are at college level, if you're applying for things, you probably shouldn't include a lot of high school stuff, especially post-college graduation. You can leave off the high school information, except if you have some sort of real notable achievement that you want to put on there. And then you don't have to list every single class you've ever completed. That kind of just clutters up the resume. And obviously spelling or grammar errors, that will cost you the interview. If you have any kind of errors on your resume, we're really looking for people who are going to have some attention to detail. So you'll get rejected with that. So, want to go ahead?
Yes.
All right, I probably can't even read that. I took this from somebody else's presentation, but so don't be that guy. So if you have all kinds of crazy fonts and all this kind of stuff, kind of makes it hard to read, a little bit messy. You probably want to keep it as simple as possible. And then the guy on the left there, so got all this centering and all this kind of crazy stuff. So you want to just keep it as simple as possible. So what not to do?
When you say simple, you want it left justified?
Yes.
Do you like the dates in the right column?
Yeah, left justified. You can, dates, however it looks, so somebody, again, I'm looking at resumes for maybe 10 seconds. So make sure I can see everything quickly and easily.
Does that one on the right hurt your eyes?
Yeah, like that,
It's very hard to look at, isn't it?
I'm getting old. I can't squint at this stuff. If I can't read it, then I'm on to the next one. Again, we have, for one entry-level position, we could have 300-400 resumes. So definitely want to make it as easy to read as possible.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, wait, I think I've got to zoom out.
Zoom
so
out.
We can go on. Okay.
Okay, so I guess the important part is when you actually start to go applying. So you guys probably know a lot of these search engines, or maybe not yet at this point, but there's just some sample ones on there, Indeed, LinkedIn, that kind of thing. You can go job hunting. If you have a particular company like Unum that you want to apply to, go directly to the company career site. That's where you're going to find the most up-to-date, accurate listing of jobs. Some of these other sites, they will pull our job listings. Oftentimes, if it's been out there for a while, it's probably already been filled. So it's best to go to the actual company website and apply directly. like with Unum and a lot of large companies, we have an applicant tracking system in the back end. What you can do is go in, even though you're not ready to apply for a job now, you can go in and you can create a profile. You can upload your resume, all your information, so you're ready to go. You can set your profile up to email you alerts when a job opens up in your field of interest. You can set it up to have, entry-level positions emailed to you, or say finance, accounting, whatever you're interested in. You'll get notifications, so then you can go ahead and apply right away. Because definitely you want to get in there in the beginning. When a job's posted, we're really actively recruiting and sourcing, typically for the first couple of weeks. After a job's been out there for a while, most likely we've already got a good candidate pool, so you may not get looked at. So it's good to get there as soon as possible if you can when a job is posted. Let's see here. Obviously, and I guess you're all juniors, so now is the time to start applying for internships for the summer. If you want to do full-time internships for summer 2019, we begin interviews, I think it's around the November, December timeframe. By early January, February, they've made all final decisions. I often go to the spring career fairs, and then juniors are looking for internships, and we're all full by then. So you want to get started now on that piece. And then we also have internships that are year-round. We've only had a couple folks from Dalton do it just because of location. Obviously, you got to drive up to Chattanooga, but you can work 15 to 19 hours a week. We work with your schedule. You're doing actual real work. So I think it's 15 an hour, so you're doing all right. And then we end up hiring on probably about 60 to 70% of our year-round scholar interns into full-time positions. So. If you're willing to drive to Chattanooga, that's an option, and I imagine some of the companies around here have similar programs as well, so it can't hurt to just go to the direct website again and look for those programs. Because usually that's the best way in, is to get in and to get to know people. Once you get in there, you can network and find out. Also, you want to create a LinkedIn profile. If you guys are familiar with that, that's more of a business networking site.
That was week one's homework.
Oh, did they all do it?
Do you look at that, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, we'll look at it a little bit, and it's good to just make connections with people, friends of friends who've got, connections in different companies. You can connect with them and say there's a job posted. You could send that person a note through LinkedIn and see if you can get your resume to the right place. Because again, with some of these positions at larger companies, hundreds and hundreds of applicants. So you may be a good qualified candidate, but if you don't get to the right person in time, you may not get considered. So it's good to have a nice profile on there. We also post directly on there, and I have people contact me through that media all the time. And Marilyn mentioned that I should advise you to clean up your social media profiles, I guess. Not that we look at them that much. We don't particularly specifically go out, at least from an HR perspective, we're not supposed to, and we advise our managers not to, but they do anyway. So I've had some managers say, I saw this out there and I'm not comfortable hiring this person. So just to be on the safe side, want to keep it PC, I guess, for those profiles. Connections, obviously your friends' parents. I don't know how many students we've hired through, mom and dad's friends of this family, that kind of thing. So definitely, get your resume to other people through family connections if you can, friend connections. We hire a lot of people through referrals. So if you know somebody who's working in a company, reach out to them and find, hey, can you get my resume at least over to HR to get looked at? Another way to get in. Professional organizations, so depending on what your major is and what you're interested in, there's typically local organizations. Yesterday I went to the UTC, SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, their meetings, and they do a lot of connections with the local community, TSCPA for the accountants, and there's others for other professions. But those are ways to network and get connected as well. And then young professionals, I think, is another way to get connected locally. There's probably, I don't know if there's something down here as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of organizations.
Too.
And they're going to visit several as they do some networking in this course.
Oh, okay, great, great.
A little practice there.
All right, preparation. Okay, so before you go in, so say you've got that great resume, cover letter, application, all looks great. You finally get the call from the recruiter, your voicemail's working, you connect, we get you scheduled to interview. What you want to do is, first thing is research the company. Don't ever go into an interview and, ask the interviewer to tell them, what do you guys do? We expect you to have done your homework before coming in there. So you want to have the basic understanding of the company. You don't have to know all the facts and figures, but go to the website and learn about the basics. Let's see here. Definitely want to have some prepared questions. I know Marilyn says she gave you all that nice little portfolio. I mean, you probably want to bring something in like that to the interview and have some questions written out. So based on the position, you don't want to come in asking, what's the salary going to be and how many days off am I going to get? That doesn't look good. So you want to come in with some real thoughtful questions about the role. You can ask about career path and direction. Based on your research, if you have questions about the company and the company direction, I mean, those are really impressive. Sometimes I can't answer them, but that can be impressive. So I guess here, don't stress yourself out, though. Obviously, people come in way too nervous as well, and then people clam up and are unable to speak, and those interviews are not fun. So definitely try to relax a little bit.
Easier said than done.
I know. And I think Marilyn's doing a whole class on dress. So you'll probably see that more and more employers are going to go into a little bit more relaxed, casual type setup. Unum, it's what they call smart casual now. Not quite sure exactly what that is, but you can wear jeans and that kind of thing, but not for an interview. I would definitely err on the side of overdressing. You can always pick out the people waiting in the lobby who are going to interview, and that's fine. It just kind of shows that you've put in the effort, that you really want the job. And if you don't own a full suit, just get as professional as possible. Nice dress, casual, button-down shirts, that kind of thing. So you don't have to go all out like this if you don't own that, but just try to get it as neat and as well-groomed as possible. And definitely no horribly strong cologne and chewing gum is another bad thing. I've had managers not want to hire people just based on the person chomping the gum in the interview. And then just kind of try to go on the conservative side as much as you can. Again, of course, depends on where you're interviewing, but I mean, we're a conservative insurance company, so just know your audience and make sure you're dressing appropriately for wherever you're interviewing.
What's your biggest pet peeve? What do you really hate to see in dress?
I don't know. I guess sometimes for the ladies, if you dress too revealing, it's not necessary. We're there to interview you for your brain, not for whatever you're showing off. So try to just keep that in mind. That's probably the biggest thing. Okay, so behavioral-based interviewing questions. Everybody hates these, and I understand. I think I've had to go through the interview process myself, and these are hard. These are those questions we ask. We're asking you, give me an example of a time when you did this. So the behavioral-based interviewing questions, the science behind it is recent past behavior is supposed to predict near future behavior. So if you've been outstanding in something recently, with the past couple years, you're most likely going to continue on that path. So you want to be able to give the interviewer concrete examples of things that you've done well. And here are some questions. Describe a situation when you had an angry customer. What was the situation? How did you handle it? So you want to be able to go through. Here's the key to how to answer these. Obviously, you're not going to go through this whole thing in your head when you're responding to the person, but you want to make sure you kind of give a little background as far as what was the scenario, what task, what action did you take, what was the results, all of that, just to give the interviewer a full picture. And you definitely want to give a detailed, specific response. If you kind of give us like general, well, I would do this, we want to hear what you've actually done in the past. So even if the example is not earth-shattering, if it's just, simple, I work in a restaurant and help this customer who is angry. If you give the specific details, at least it answers our question and gives something specific. So, and I think you're having another class that's specifically devoted to that. So more to come.
We are. What about a quick example, though? Can you think one, or should we put Jonathan on the spot later?
So Jonathan, can you tell me about an angry claimant? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just hold it if you don't mind. We're taking it for posterity.
Okay.
Tell me about a time when you had to deal with an angry customer. What was the situation and how did you handle it?
So one time I had to deal with an angry customer when they had actually had a claim that I've been processing for about over a month. I had sent them back and forth to get medical records, and at the very end of it all, they actually never even went on an approved leave of absence prior to getting out of work. So unfortunately, they weren't actually covered when they first sought treatment, which was about a month after they actually stopped working. So making that phone call to call somebody after you made them go back and forth between the doctor's office to their physical therapist back home to have it faxed or emailed back to us, it can make somebody really angry. And I know with that customer, the best thing I could do is just to be honest and explain the situation. Because he stopped working on that previous date and never actually really got a approved leave of absence or got on FMLA or anything along those lines, he didn't have coverage. You don't want to really go around or skipping around it trying to be nice. You want to be direct with people. And although he wasn't happy with the results of it, he was happy that I was able to be straightforward with him and provided him with alternatives that if he did feel that we made a mistake there, they can always appeal. So you also want to provide people with a fix for their problem, or another route they can take just in case they're not happy with it. I just know at the end of that, although he wasn't happy again with not getting approved because he didn't have that approved letter prior, he was happy that I was able to be straightforward with him instead of just leaving him out to dry and not know what's going on.
Good job.
How'd he do?
He did very well.
Made us proud. Did you make that up?
No, that's actually a claim I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
You may just want to give a little background going into it.
I know it was one of my first claims that I had to actually make a adverse decision, as we call it. I wasn't 100% sure on what to be asking as far as how I should find out when somebody actually stops working. When would they actually stop having coverage? I didn't really know all those answers. I know after that situation, because I have a mentor who's the person who teaches you things about your job and assist you. They were actually able to point that part out. That's how I was actually able to find out and go back and fix that problem. I recently actually even had a claim where when I got the claim on the first day, I almost made the same mistake because I was about to go down the route of approving them. But luckily, before I made a call back to them or start sending them on this wild goose chase to go get records for me, I was able to figure out that at that point in time, we didn't have anything on file that suggested they had actually had an approved leave of absence. There were some other things going on with it that the reason as to why they stopped working, but point being, they didn't have anything showing that they stopped working. So because of that, I was able to tell the claimant and tell the employer what the situation was. And they were happy because they didn't have to go back and forth getting all these records, have a month go by, and just to be told no, or hey, you weren't covered to begin with. At least this way they're able to go back, retrace their steps, and get everything cleared first before filing the claim, thus being happy instead of angry and not approved.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. Impressive.
Here you go.
You pass.
So if folks want to contact you to role play a little bit with this behavioral-based technique, you available?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, good, good, good.
Oop, let me put my thing back on. I'm sorry, I was supposed to turn this off when I, all right, so when you're responding, definitely it's okay to take a second to think about your response before just blurting out the first thing that comes in your head. We'd rather have a well thought out answer than just word vomit, I don't know, but we get that. So really want to remain positive. Sometimes you'll get the questions here, these contrary evidence questions. So we're going to basically ask you for a time when maybe you made a mistake or you didn't do well or something like that. So you want to have those examples in mind. So you want to be upfront and honest, because if you tell us you have never done anything wrong, you don't have any any flaws, that kind of thing, we're not going to believe you, of course. So what you want to do is say what happened, what you learned from it, and what you've done moving forward. So maybe you did, like Jonathan, made a little boo-boo and sent a claimant on a wild goose chase for a month, and then had to call him back and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're really not approved for this." So, but he learned and he didn't do it again. So those are the kinds of things where you may want to just highlight what you've learned and how you've moved on from that. Yep, that's good.
Okay.
And don't make funny faces at us in the interview. I guess you just want to, stay kind of calm and cool and collected, even if an interviewer throws something crazy at you. Don't give us like a crazy face. So demeanor. I mean, the things that interviewers also look at, I find hiring managers, eye contact is important. They don't seem to like, I guess people are kind of squirrely if they're looking down and around and that kind of thing. So make sure you're making eye contact, shaking hands, just being as personable as possible, being engaged. I had one guy come into an interview and just sat down and stared out the window, and probably don't want to do that. He did not get the job, so those kinds of things.
Okay.
All right, so questions for me. Do you guys have anything specific?
I want to know what you do with a resume once you get it. We hear all about software, looking for keywords and matching the keywords to the job description. Can you tell us about the process once these fine students have sent you their resume?
I wish we had that software. There are only very few companies that have that artificial intelligence type software that goes through and screens resumes before a person gets to them. Most companies, including Unum, it's me. I'm slugging through the 400 resumes. So that's why, again, I'll probably look at a resume for 10, 20 seconds before making a decision. So you want to make sure it can catch the person's eye right away, but we don't screen on keywords.
Okay. Then go through with us, if you don't mind, the next step. So sometimes we'll submit a resume as a student, but we don't hear back. We don't know when to bug you, how to follow up, how to do a thank you. Tell us what best practices for the rest of the process.
So there's no contact info through the system, and we do that purposely so we don't have 400 people contacting us. But if you get to you'll get, if I reject you right off the bat, you'll get a nice little note emailed to you saying we're moving forward with other candidates. If you look like a good candidate, the next step is you'll get an email it'll look like it's coming from our system, but it's going to ask you to fill out a short questionnaire. It's going to ask things like, why do you want this position? What are your strengths? How does this fit within your career plan? What are your salary expectations? Are you available to work these times? Definitely put some effort into it, because when we look at those, the people that put in the 2-word answers typically don't move forward to the next step. But really, you know, think about it. Why do you really want this job? And be able to express that. And next step from there, if you do that really well, then an actual human would reach out to you. And that would be me through email, through phone, to do the next step, which would be a phone interview. Typically for entry-level positions, we start off with a 30-minute phone interview, kind of go through the basics, ask you about your work history, school, those basic things, ask a few behavioral-based interviewing questions, those types of things.
So this is phone, not Skype?
This would be just phone. We start with, just over the phone talking first.
I put some material out there on the course website about how to do a phone interview, but let's ask Shannon, what are you looking for? Shorter answers, smile in the voice? How do you ace the phone interview? Because those are kind of scary too.
Yes. So great communication skills. The vast majority of our jobs do require you to be in contact with clients directly, so we want to make sure you are not using slang, you use correct grammar, you want to sound somewhat energetic but not over the top. Let's see, trying to think. Definitely a positive attitude comes through over the phone, and again, those behavioral-based interviewing questions, if you can answer those quickly and effectively, that's key. The people that ramble on, I just start to space out after a while. So what you want to do is just get to the point, answer the question.
Stop.
And just know that the interviewer, we've got a list of like 20 questions we need to get through, so we can't spend, 15 minutes on one question. So.
But I think one good thing about the phone interview, Jonathan had that great behavioral-based answer. You could have that in front of you. Not necessarily reading it, hopefully, but at least it would prompt you. You could have something written on a piece of paper. You're not going to see what I've got in front of me in the phone interview. I can have my resume.
If you have some examples of stuff you've done. Yep, so you don't forget.
Oh, we talked a little bit about this. We had a little Starbucks before we came to see you today, but we talked about e-portfolios, because I know some of you have great examples of Excel pivot tables you've done, PowerPoint slides, things you've created in marketing.